Hello, this is RICKY, the YouTube Tech Guy. Hey guys, today we are going to be going over the hits and misses of Apple's WWDC. So Apple made a lot of announcements at this convention. I was right about a lot of them, but I was wrong about some of them. I did not think they would do MacBooks. That was the big thing. I was just like, I don't know if they're going to do MacBooks this soon after. You know, it's 7 months after, and we'll get to that. But so what were the hits? What were the big upgrades and updates that were really well off and that definitely hit at WWDC? First and foremost, TVOS finally getting Amazon Prime. That is a big update. I mean, it really should have been around before then, but it finally has it. So now if you are a Amazon Prime member, you can see Amazon on your Apple TV. I mean, for me, it was really bad considering like you can get like Roku's and a lot of other things that could do it and the Apple TV couldn't. That was pretty bad. I guess Amazon and them came to an agreement because I'm sure that they were like, well, we're selling less Fire Sticks then, but it was a good understanding. So it finally has come there. The other big thing is the Watch OS updates. So the new watch, especially the Siri one, I feel is a good update to have on there. You have your information right below your time at all times, much like Android Wear in that aspect, like it's always there. And syncing with gym equipment is a really good feature. Now, they said it would work with a lot of gym equipment. Now, what kind of gyms are we talking here? Are we talking about, you know, your standard Gold's Gym, 24-hour fitness, and Bally's? Or are we talking about some high-end gyms that a lot of people don't go to? So that's the one thing I'm worried about. Like, what fitness equipment is it going to work with? Is it going to work off of Ant Plus technology that a lot of other smartphones use? Or is it going to work off something different? So I'm really kind of curious of how it's going to pair. And finally, the music one is really a great new app and a much needed update to that app for the watch. So it was a really good update. Safari, I think, had the best in all of, out of everything I saw from the new Mac OS, the High Sierra. First of all, did they really just call it? I mean, come on, you couldn't have thought of any better name. I mean, Sierra S maybe, I don't know, something. But it could have been a much better name than High Sierra. It's, I don't know, Sierra .1, something else. But the best part I feel really was in Safari. Any of the OS updates I didn't see as that big of a deal, just because I always judge it by, am I missing anything out by not having a Mac and having a PC instead? And everything that they went over, with the exception of this, I already have, and I've had for a while on some of them, like the Photos thing. Things like that I've had for a while because I use Chrome, and that just solves everything for Windows computers. So with Safari, auto play block, so when you go to a website and it auto plays a video, that is stopped. So that's really cool. And the stop intelligent ads. So intelligent ads that go around your ad blockers, this will stop them. So that's really cool. So I like that just because, I mean, I use an ad blocker standard on Chrome, but of course Google doesn't want to help that because most of their ads are from Google. So they don't want to help you do that too much. And then iOS 11, I have split up into the hits and misses because some of the things were really hits and some of the things were misses. So first hit, iMessage Pay. I think that's a lot better streaming, and also iMessage just looks a lot better, especially with the bottom switching between everything. So iMessage Pay is a really good feature that was added to iMessage. And for iPhone users, they might like that a lot more now. Obviously, there's lots of other ways to do it on Android. I do things through Google Wallet, through Gmail all the time, but having it in the message system is a lot nice too. So I'm really kind of curious to see how it's going to be. New standards for video and photo. So there's new codec for video and photo, and it's a lot more compressed, which means that maybe you can record 4K video without needing to immediately update your iPhone or your iCloud storage. However, we have to see how much this codec is adopted. Like, can I upload this video to YouTube right from my iPhone? If not, then things like that, it's not going to be welcomed at all because people have to adopt it. Developers have to accept it for it to be uploaded to their apps in order for it to be good, because it's just changing the format. Instead of your standard JPEG and AVCHD, it's going to change it to its own format. So that can be good, it cannot be. It has to be adopted in order for it to be good. You're also finally getting low light for portrait. This is one thing that I definitely stated, like with the S8 and with other smartphones, you had much better portrait modes than Apple because of that. So that was a really big thing, that you had a big difference in there. For that, you also have capturing a photo in motion photo. Now, this is something, again, you could do on other Android phones that you were not able to do on an iPhone. Even though Apple brought the concept of motion photos, they were far surpassed in the same year by being able to capture the photo. So if I take a picture with my S8 or my S7 or my S6, I could take the photo and then actually go back and have another photo from that photo because it was a motion photo. So that is much better along those lines. Loop and bounce is really cool that it has it built into into the iPhone. Photos editor is probably one of the weakest ones compared to most Android smartphones, but getting features like that is really big and really important. But the biggest thing I would say is the long exposure edition. That is a really cool one, and one that I would love to have. So that's a really awesome one. The long exposure feature is really nice. And it doesn't do exactly long exposure, just basically blends in all the photos to give you that look. Drag and drop for split screen, that's a really big thing. And it's funny because it's something that Google has not had, Samsung has had, but then they took it away, which was insane. So now I guarantee you Samsung's like, oh shit, we got to put that back. Drag and drop feature was really perfect on, I want to say, the Note 5, where you could drag and drop anything from any part of the screen by touching a button, and then now everything was drag and droppable. You can still do that with photos in the gallery, so I can take a photo from the gallery, automatically drop it, but the way Apple's doing it is a lot better in the way that Samsung used to do it, but does not do anymore. No current drag and drop for mobile OS is as good as this drag and drop right now. So that's going to be really interesting how you're going to see Android suddenly probably adopt that, and Samsung probably go back to that after they messed and have not had it. Full dock is much better, obviously, more so like Mac OS. So you get a full dock that you can always just drag up and drop things on there. A lot easier on there. File app, God, that was one of the biggest things. I've never been able to use an iPad for much longer than a couple of days because of that, sometimes even hours, because I need a file management system, and you cannot call yourself a productivity product if I do not have a file manager. And that is one really big thing that they finally did to that, and it syncs across. It's really a lot better, so thank God for that. And I'm surprised that they already have plugins for Dropbox and Google Drive and OneDrive, because that is a really big step on their part in the right direction. And finally, the new Notes app. The new Notes app works really well with the pencil. Again, doing something that I guarantee you're going to see Samsung backtrack on. Samsung had a really great Notes app called S Note, and then they switched to a new app called Samsung Notes. S Note was like the new Apple Notes app, where you can seamlessly type and write in any order you want, and it's perfect. But Samsung tried to make an easier note app, and it's nowhere near as good because you cannot do that. You either have writing or you have text. With this version of Apple's Notes, it's really a lot better, and it has the full capability to mix and match. And of course, even do things like, again, we've seen before, where you can take photos and then it makes it into notes, and that's really great. So that's the cool stuff that I really love about iOS 11. We'll get to the misses later, about the bad parts about iOS 11. And lastly, the iPads themselves were okay, the iPad Pros, but the biggest thing about it is the 120 Hz screens. Now, this is a higher Hertz screen than anyone. First of all, I will say one thing, that they said the iPad Pro has been the best screen since it came out. No, iPad Pros have never been the best screen. You cannot compare it to an OLED display on other tablets. You can't. It's never been the best display. However, with this 120 hertz display, that is impressive. That is something that is really impressive if developers develop their apps to utilize it. Because if they don't, obviously it won't be utilized, and then it doesn't matter. But if developers utilize it, it will look buttery smooth. It's going to look just perfect in terms of how it moves and how the motion works. So that's a really great part about it. All right, those were all the hits. Now, if you're wondering why this part wasn't there or this part wasn't there, well, now we're to the misses. So what were the misses that Apple announced that were definitely not good? And I will give my reasoning why they're not good. So let's get to the first one you've probably been wondering about, HomePod. First of all, that name is just horrible. HomePod? Like, HomePod is the worst name they probably could have come up with. I can't think of a worse name that a company would actually go forward with than HomePod. Apple Home, I mean, you can't do iHome, but Apple Home, Siri Home, you know, something. But just, you know, Apple Speaker would be better than HomePod. It's just Apple Pod, even, you know, something else. But just, I think HomePod is probably the worst name they could have come up with. I really hope they change it. It was just such a horrible name. Now, here's the thing. It is limited in Siri. So far, it cannot do everything that Siri can do. So that's not good right away because it's more limited than Siri. And out of all the home assistants, Siri is already the worst currently right now. Google Assistant and Alexa are way better than Siri in terms of being able to accurately do things and respond to commands. So that's a really big problem right away. Second thing is it's $350 and it's not coming out till December, which means you're going to have a new Google Home by then. Heck, you might even have a new Alexa by then. I mean, you're already getting the Echo Show coming from Amazon next month, and the competition is better. Now, here's where Apple is trying to say that it's worth it. The sound quality on this is supposed to be amazing. But here's the thing. If I can get a better Wi-Fi and Bluetooth speaker that connects to all my products, not just my Apple products, and plays all my music, not just my Apple music, why wouldn't I get that? It's more versatile. If a family, you know, doesn't have all Apple products already by default, this is not viable because it's all about Apple Music and connecting it through an iPhone and using through Siri. So it's just really doesn't make as much sense as getting a bipartisan, you know, Google Assistant, a Google Home, or a Amazon Alexa that works with way more things as well. So it'll be very curious to see how this turns out, but as of right now, yeah, the name is horrible. I already went over that, but it's limited Siri. Siri has to be beefed up, if anything. You have to do a better job of, I think for the price point, I mean, especially because, like, I have 3 Google Homes. I bought 2 Alexas, so I definitely have, I have Google Homes throughout my house right now, and they were $129 each. I could not imagine doing it for $350 each and having multiple ones like that in my house. I guess if they just plan it to be only in the living room, but that's not a smart home. That's a smart room. So next is going to be the iOS misses. So what were the bad parts about iOS? One of the worst parts in my opinion, and it might seem okay unless you know alternatives, is the do not disturb while driving. Do not disturb while driving is really bad for one simple reason, and that is there are better options that they could have done out there. It's a black screen and, you know, it automatically text messages. Come on, guys, that driving mode has been out on other OSs. I mean, anything, you know, from Samsung, LG, wow, every one of them have had driving modes that have done the auto text message reply. You can even get carrier stuff that does that. Not that impressive. But what they should have done is what Android did recently. Last year, I believe they did Android Auto on the phone without having to plug it into a Android Auto deck, which means you have huge icons and it's in a specific driving mode that's operated entirely by voice. And that's what they should have done. They should have brought iCarPlay, Apple CarPlay, to the phone. Then if you have an iPhone 7 Plus, you have these huge, icons, 2 rows, 4 icons each row to be able to use it just like you would. And then you can mount it onto a, whatever kind of mount that you want. And you can use it mainly with Siri, but you have those options to hit those big buttons if you needed. That would have been much, much better. They should have done that than this do not disturb driving. The new command center look, I think is just honestly really bad and blocky. I think it looks really bad. I think it looks like the remote for an Apple TV, but the design is a lot worse compared to last year's. Although this is way more functional to have everything on one page, I get that, but I think the look is just really bad. That is my opinion, so if you like the look, that might be a difference, but I just think the look is really bad. Finally, the weird lock screen notification thing, it takes longer to get to all your notifications now. You only have the one priority notification, and then you have to swipe down to get all your notifications. So you have to swipe down twice to get all your notifications, and just once to get your main notification. It takes longer, and it takes you back to the lock screen. So your lock screen is free now, so you can see your picture, but then you don't get your notifications. I'd rather get my notifications. It's something that Android tried to do a couple years back, where they kind of got rid of all notifications on the lock screen, and they were pissed. Users were pissed, so they brought it back. I forgot which OS that was, but one OS had a clear, beautiful looking wallpaper, so all you saw was the lock screen, and then they brought the notifications back because people want more productivity than necessarily just looks. For the misses, I will put MacBooks under this. MacBooks, they weren't that big of an update. It was mainly the Kaby Lake update, so newer processors. But here's the thing, it's 7 months. 7 months after the last ones came out. So if you bought the new MacBook with the touch bar and everything like that, you've already been outdone 7 months later. That's really bad practice by a business. And it's not like they have an update grade program or anything like that. You're stuck with that. So that's it for the MacBooks. I mean, they're fine. They're nothing more than what happened last year, except with a better processor, really. Yes, they dropped one of the price points. And why did they drop it? Because they weren't selling that much. The new MacBooks in Q4 did not help them sell any more MacBooks than they did in both Q4 and Q1. They did not sell more MacBooks year over year, and that obviously was a problem, right? But it's because people weren't buying the new MacBooks, mainly because it's only Type-C connection, and you can't even plug in your Lightning headphones into this product, and your products are not working together. So that's a big problem. Not to mention, you still can't get AirPods very easily. You still have a wait period. It's just the solutions that they promise aren't available for that, and their products aren't connecting together, and that's a big disconnect and something that Apple would have never done before. Finally, the biggest the biggest miss of the show was the iMac Pro. That is the biggest miss I have ever seen. First of all, Apple, do you not understand Pro customers? Maybe you do, because you want to rob them of all their money. Because this is what's going to happen. You have already stated and said that this is not it. There will be a Mac Pro coming out next year that is upgradable. So this Mac Pro will be a much better performer than this iMac Pro, and it's going to be upgradable. However, this iMac Pro, for the weakest specs of them, which, but granted, is better, it's about a $2,000 PC, for $5,000, has just nowhere near its worth. For $5,000 for the Exxon one that you're getting there. Remember, that's not the 18 core. It's not the one with the best solid state drive. That's probably a 256 solid state drive in there at that price. Or God, if it's a Fusion drive, that's even worse. But here's the thing. That is so low tech compared to what you want to get, which you want to get the best of the best, so it works on Final Cut perfectly. But why would you get that when you can never upgrade it? I mean, I get it. Look, if you keep this for 5 years, yeah, it might be worth it to you. But what's going to be more worth it to you is getting a Mac Pro next year, get a 5K display, and it's going to be way better. Not to mention, I mean, it's going to be cheaper and better. So that is the biggest miss ever. I hope people do not get bamboozled into buying this iMac Pro, because it's probably the worst idea you can get. The only reason to get it is if you need an all-in-one. It's why the Surface one didn't sell that well either, because yes, an all-in-one looks beautiful on a desk. It really does. But you lose a lot of functionality, and you can get a lot better specs on a much better system. And it's just, it's ridiculous that it costs that much. You can, custom build a PC, or you can even buy a PC with an Exxon processor that is at the same level for about $3,000. I mean, it's insane that you can get much better for that price point in every shape and way. But if you want, if you know, and I know a lot of YouTubers use Final Cut. So if you use Final Cut, great. Wait for the Mac Pro, because the iMac Pro is probably the worst decision that any true pro can make. Alright guys, hopefully you did like this video. I know it went a little long, but I just wanted to make sure you got all the hits and misses and why they were hits and why they were misses. Alright guys, thank you so much as always for watching. This has been RICKY, the YouTube Tech Guy.